بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته and welcome to our seventh class on the Islamic Fiqh, and we are still discussing chapter number 4, and in this chapter we are talking about the classifications of people, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims, and we spoke about the hypocrites and how they are divided into two types, whether it is major hypocrisy or minor hypocrisy. And I think we stopped at the section that deals with the basic rule of people's life and property. And this is a common theme that theologians, scholars that write in Aqidah, usually refer to. So the Shikh says in his book, the basic rule is that the life and property of a believer are protected and unlawful to anyone. With regard to an unbeliever, they have no such protection. However, this does not apply universally and to all. An unbeliever may have protection because of his pledges or his promise of security and loyalty. On the other hand, a believer, a Muslim, may be killed for an offense he commits, such as murdering someone or adultery when he is married. This statement needs clarification because a lot of misunderstanding may occur to enthusiastic Muslims when they read such phrases. So what destroys Islam the most is half knowledgeable. And by half knowledgeable, we mean that a person who is not truly knowledgeable, and at the same time he's not truly ignorant, but he thinks that he is knowledgeable. This destroys Islam. It's like half a doctor. So if you go to a doctor, he would diagnose your illness and give you the remedy with the grace of Allah. But when you go to a half a doctor, and we have them in our families, among our companions, we talk in gatherings, oh, I have this illness, and then half a doctor comes and says, do you get these symptoms? You have this and that, and you should take this medication or this herb, and do not eat that specific food, and you will be fine. The poor person goes for such a recommendation, ends up getting worse or even dead. With Islam, it's worse. Because with medicine, the worst thing that could happen is that you die. Eventually you're gonna die this year, next decade. Inevitably, you're gonna die. But when it comes to religion, now we have a serious problem. When you have half a knowledgeable person teaching religion and giving fatwas and verdicts without having a predecessor who's knowledgeable, without relaying the knowledge from sources that are authentic and reliable, we have catastrophes. And this is what's happening on the arena. Where does ISIS come from? The non-Islamic state of Iraq and Syria. The non-Islamic, they're not Islamic. Where do they come from? From such half knowledgeable people. People with corrupt aqidah. So they come to such phrases that are spreading all over books of aqidah. And they say, okay, anyone who's a non-Muslim is halalud dami wal mal. And this phrase is always reoccurring. Halalud dami wal mal. And some of them even go to quote Al-Qurtubi said, Ibn Taymiyyah said, blah, 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 blah. And they have Facebook pages. And I've seen some of them. And they have articles with book name, chapter, and line and page, etc. Anyone who would go through this would, wow, man, these names are big. And this is reliable. So yes, Imam Qurtubi said, Imam so-and-so said, Al-Awza'i said, Imam Shafi'i said. And when you cross-reference and go back to these chapters and to these volumes, you'll find that it was misquoted. So they lied and they took, like when we recite in the Quran, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, woe to those who pray. And I stop here. Allah said this in the Quran. So if it's Maghrib time and I quote this ayah to you and said, whoa, I'm running away from hell. If you tell me woe to those who pray, I'm not going to pray, man. If Allah doesn't want me to pray, I'm not going to pray. Why? Because I did not complete the ayah. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ, those who are neglectful over their prayers. Woe to the worshippers, to the people who pray if they are neglectful. But if they're not, then definitely they have paradise waiting for them. Likewise, Allah says, لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى. Do not approach prayer while you are intoxicated, while you are wasted. So if someone says, Allah says in the Quran, look, it's in black and white, do not approach prayer, do not come close to prayer, full stop. This is what's happening here. So the phrase, halalud dami wal mal, that his wealth and life is permissible for all to take. If I don't have knowledge and I see this phrase, so anyone who's non-Muslim, I can kill him. I can take his wealth. Why? Because I have no proper knowledge in Islam. If you go to the books of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, if you go to the books of Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, all the great scholars of Islam, you will see that they say that a non-Muslim is divided into different types. There is the dhimmi, there is the mu'ahad, there is the musta'man, and there is the harbi. What are these classifications? A dhimmi is someone who comes and lives in our country as a Christian, as a Jew, or whatever. He pays the jizya and he has the permission from the ruler, the Muslim ruler, to live among us. So he has the dhimma of Allah Azza wa Jal, the protection of Allah Azza wa Jal. He lives among us safe and sound. And if there is any attack upon our country, he lives in his home safe and sound. He's not obliged to defend. It is our duty to defend him because we gave him the pledge of security to stay, and he's giving us the jizya, the taxation. Number two, al-mu'ahad, a country that has a peace treaty, you may call it, that has a covenant between their country and ours, that we do not attack them. So they're not paying the jizya, but they are good to us and we're good to them. So they come and visit, and they may enter, or I may see them in the Bahamas, or I may see them in the Amazon area. And our country is good with their country. They have treaties. He is mu'ahad. He's got the pledge. I cannot kill him. I cannot take his money, because we are on good terms as countries, not as individuals. Maybe I hate his guts. He's a kafir. He's a disbeliever. We have a pledge. And this is what most countries have. So as Muslim country, we have so many treaties and pledges with the vast majority of countries of the world. Even Tahiti, we have a pledge or a treaty with them. We have diplomatic relationships, an embassy here, an embassy there, a consulate here, a consulate there. So I cannot force them to do anything against their will. I cannot attack them. I cannot kill them. I cannot do anything. Number 3, al-musta'man, a country that we are at war with, definitely. Yet one or more individual seek permission from the Muslim ruler to come and do a particular errand, business trip, whatever, I don't know. But we are at war. And, for example, ambassadors coming to convey a message. So such a person has a temporary pass to guarantee his safety. So he comes to my country. People cannot simply go and kill him. And if they do, they are sinful and breaking the law and breaking the covenant of my own Muslim ruler, who I am obliged to honor. Yes, but he's my enemy, he's this, he's that. You have no authority. Like when, for example, Abu Sufyan, who was, before accepting Islam, the leader of the Qurayshis of Mecca, the idol worshippers, a staunch enemy of the Muslims. He came to Medina, and the companions were there with their swords. Bilal, Ammar, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, etc. And they're looking at him and saying, by Allah, the swords of Muslims did not avenge the Muslims from you. Abu Bakr heard them, and he said, do you say this to a great leader of the Quraysh tribe? And he went to the Prophet ﷺ and complained. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, have you angered them, Abu Bakr? Watch out. You should not anger them over such a person. So they did not attack him, though they could have, because they knew that the Prophet ﷺ had given him a pass to come to Medina and to negotiate and to communicate, though he's an enemy and from an enemy country. So these are the 3 types of disbelievers, the non-Muslims. Dhimmi, living in our country; Mu'ahad, citizen of another country that we have good relationships with; and a Musta'man, someone who's coming from a country that we are at war with, but with a temporary pass. What about the 4th category? The 4th category is that of al-harbi, someone that we are, as Muslims, the whole entire ummah is at war with, and we have no covenants with them, we have no pledges, we have no treaties with them. Such a country the people of such a country are considered to be halal for the Muslims to kill and to take their wealth because they are our enemies. And one who said, oh, this is barbaric. Is it? So if a Western soldier saw someone from Al-Qaeda or from ISIS in the wilderness or in a desert or whatever, alone, would he kill him or let him go? Definitely he'd kill him. And if he kills him, would anybody condemn him or not? No, it's okay. He's an enemy, combatant. He is a terrorist. He's this, he's that. Okay, this is what you say. So what about what a Muslim country says about the citizens of that particular country who have invaded Muslim lands, confiscated Muslims' property, killed Muslims of that land and made them refugees, and they are at war with them? So do you think that we just meet and kiss and make up? No, this is a harbi. These are the four categories mentioned usually in books of fiqh. However, I'm inclined to say that there is a fifth category, which is of non-Muslims who do not fall under these four categories. Could that be, Sheikh? Yeah. For example, people of a tribe or a country so far away that we don't have any diplomatic relationships. They're not Muslims, but they're not our enemies, and we don't have any covenants with them or pledges. So let's assume that there is an island next to Australia, and they have their own country, but we don't have, as Muslims, any diplomatic relationships with them, none whatsoever. If I meet their citizens, can I kill them and take their money? Of course not. Why? They're neither dhimmi, nor musta'man, nor mu'ahad, nor harbi. Yes, but they are a fifth category whom did not initiate any sort of aggression against us as Muslims, and we have no enmity with them. In this case, there is no way allowed for a Muslim to simply say, okay, I have the classifications. They're dhimmi, no, check. Musta'man, check. Mu'ahad, check. Harbi, no. So it's not from these four categories, then I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. This is not a jungle. And the companions did not simply wander around anyone who they did not recognize as a Muslim they would have killed. No, they were denied from doing this. They were prohibited from doing this. So this is extremely important for you as a Muslim to remember, to understand that we do not live in a jungle. We do not just simply go around and classify people whether we can kill them or not, or take their money or not. No. We are civilized. We understand the relationships between ourselves as Muslims and others, governed through the Quran and the Sunnah, not through our own intellect, not through simply because XYZ said something and we apply it. No. It is extremely important to understand this fact. And this is why the Sheikh says in the following statement, which we will continue to study later on, he says, no one is to be considered a disbeliever except those whom Allah and his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam pronounced as such. Wow, so this is quite important. The issue of kufr is not for me and you just to throw randomly at people. Why? Ya akhi, because they're kafir, they're this, they're that. Where did you get this from? I don't know, but they're not Muslim, so they're kafir. Ha ha ha. Or he's a Muslim, but he committed a sin while knowing Allah is watching him, then he's a kafir. The vast majority of the counseling sessions I have are with Muslims who are being used or abused by shaitan. And they are constantly thinking, Sheikh, is this kufr? When I say XYZ, is this kufr? When I think about this thing, have I committed kufr? Am I a mushrik? And they under this vicious cycle that is about to destroy their lives. Imagine, I get some of my, I don't know if I call them patients or clients or whatever, or students maybe, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I'm not a shrink, I'm not a psychiatrist, I've never studied these things. But I'm a Muslim, and I have knowledge how shaitan behaves and how he knows how you think and how he intervenes with these intrusive thoughts. Wallahi, I've been getting people calling me and having these sessions crying, weeping, not eating, not drinking. And I'm not talking about 1 or 10 or 50, hundreds. And why is this? Because this is how shaitan messes up with their minds. And this is his ultimate goal, to depress you, to intimidate you, and to have you with him as a companion in hellfire on the day of judgment. It's you who's opening the door for him. So once you learn, once you get the knowledge, the proper knowledge, my job is not to convince you. My job is not to heal you or to cure your illness. I don't have this. My job is to open your eyes. What you have is an eye opener. And then you say, what the heck? I know all of these things. How come I never applied it in my life? So you have to learn, and this is what we're here for, to learn that takfir is not up to me and you. It's only up to Allah Azza wa Jal and to the Prophet ﷺ to render, to label, to classify someone as a kafir. And we will get to this inshallah. So the basic, again, the basic rule is that the life and property of a believer are protected and unlawful to anyone. What's the evidence, Sheikh? The evidence is the numerous verses of the Quran and the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. The most well-known hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ addressed the people on the farewell Hajj, when he said to them that your wealth and your safety or life or blood and your honor, your reputation are haram upon one another. Similarly to the prohibition of your day in this sacred month, in this sacred land. So this hadith clearly indicates that I cannot simply come and kill you as a Muslim. I cannot simply come and take your money and laugh about it and say, I'm a good businessman. I took his money. I cheated him of a fortune. I borrowed money and I neglected him. I can't do that. No can do. This is haram. It's a major sin. And this is the default. But Sheikh, my neighbor, doesn't pray in the masjid. And he curses me and my family all the time. He uses bad words. so I got a chance to steal his car. Is that okay? He said, no, his wealth is haram. But Sheikh, he did this. It's haram, period. You cannot transgress against his wealth, not a single penny, nor against his health by smacking him or shedding his blood or killing him or injuring him. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is crystal clear. He said to his companions, do you know who is al-muflis, the one whose stone broke? So the companions said, yeah, the guy who doesn't have any dirham or dinar, no euros, no dollars. He's broke, he doesn't have money. He said, no. The truly broke Muslim is, from among you, is the one who comes on the day of judgment with lots of prayer, lots of fasting, and lots of charity. So he looks like a good, legit person, but he cursed this one, swore and abused verbally that one, backbitten this one, beaten and shed the blood of this one, consumed the wealth of that one. So these are all major sins. The Prophet said, so he would be brought forward on the day of judgment, and he will be giving from his own good deeds to compensate for his sins. And if his good deeds are over, if they run out, then he starts to take and accumulate from their bad deeds, and then he will be thrown into hell. La ilaha illallah. What a fate. After all of these years that we had spent in this life, praying, fasting, giving charity, practicing Islam or pretending to be practicing Islam, this is your fate, because you transgressed upon others, and it's pay time. Now, having said that, the Sheikh says, with regard to a disbeliever, they have no such protection. We've gone through this, through the 5 classifications of the disbelievers. However, this does not apply universally and to all. Although this is the default, there are exceptions. What do you mean? He says, a disbeliever may have protection because of his pledges or his promise of security and loyalty. So this is what we were referring to. Whether he's a dhimmi or a mu'ahad or a musta'min, or simply someone who's a non-Muslim, he's a disbeliever, but there is no enmity, there's no war between us. A simple G.I. Joe, someone who has no beef with us as Muslims. So we treat them well. We go to their country, we meet them, we greet them. We don't transgress against them because they're not our enemy. The only people, and this is a general rule, the only people we as Muslims are allowed to attack are the blatant enemies of Islam, who our country considers them enemies of them and of Islam. That's it. Simple and straightforward. Other than that, none of the disbelievers or the non-Muslims we're allowed to transgress against. With regard to a disbeliever, they have, okay, we've gone through this, and may have protection because, okay. On the other hand, a believer may be killed. Now we're talking about a Muslim. The default is a Muslim has protection. But the author says, a believer may be killed for an offense he committed, such as murdering someone or adultery when he's married. Okay, so let's look into this. When we say that a Muslim has protection, this kind of protection is not forever. There are red lines. And if he transgresses, if he passes, if he crosses any of these red lines, then he has to pay the price. He's a Muslim, yes. If he transgresses and kills and murders another Muslim, and we spoke about this when we talked about the Islamic Fiqh, the jurisprudence course. When are we to execute a murderer? This is up to his family, his heirs. They can, number one, ask for a life for a life, an eye for an eye. So he killed our brother, our father, our relative. We demand that he's executed. The Muslim ruler kills him. Or we may take the blood money, or we may forgive him altogether. So this is a murderer. And what about a Muslim man who is married or was previously married or is a widow and he commits adultery? And he either confesses or he's caught red-handed, and there are 4 male Muslim witnesses testifying that they've seen the genitals in one another. So the punishment for such a crime is execution, stoning till death. The third reason for justifying killing a Muslim is that when he commits the act of apostasy, when he exits the fold of Islam, when he changes his religion from Islam to any other religion, the Muslim ruler appoints a panel of Muslim judges to interrogate him, to try to advise him, to try to bring him back to Islam and put some sense into his mind. If the person is adamant and he is defiant and he does not want to comply, they tell him that the punishment of such an action is execution, you'll die. And if he still insists, then they issue their verdict and give it to the Muslim ruler. The Muslim ruler looks into it and then orders his directive for this person to be executed. These 3 cases were mentioned in the authentic hadith. When the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, it is not permissible to shed the blood of a Muslim, meaning to kill a Muslim, except with 3 things. 1, a soul for a soul, the murderer. 2, an adulterer. 3, the one who abandons the majority, the jama'ah, and leaves his religion. And in all these 3 things, the only person permitted to execute such a punishment is only the Muslim ruler or his deputy. The Muslim judge does not have this authority. He gives the ruling, but he does not execute it. Only the Muslim ruler or whom he deputizes can carry out this punishment. So it's not for Tom, Dick, or Harry. It's not for those who claim that honor killing is permissible and there's nothing honorable in such murders. A woman fornicates, her brother, her father are hot-blooded, they assign someone to kill her. This is murder, and they will be admitted to hellfire. It's not their call. It's the Muslim ruler's job and duty after ensuring that there are evidences beyond doubt that can stand in a court of law that she fornicated. And not everyone who fornicates is executed. If she was not previously married, it's only flogging, 100 lashes, not killing. So lots of the Muslims have their religion confused due to their lack of knowledge. So this is something that must be understood when a person learns his aqidah. Okay, what about the wealth, Sheikh? When can we take a Muslim's money? Well, this is again up to the Muslim ruler. If someone borrowed money and he refuses to give it back, it's the duty of the Muslim ruler to issue a directive of taking it forcefully from him. And sometimes the Muslim ruler has the authority to take double the amount, as in the case of people who do not give zakat on time and they try to cheat their way out of zakat. So he has the power to fine them equivalent to the amount of zakat they are trying to evade, and so on. So there are many ways and things that allow the Muslim ruler to take the wealth of other Muslims when it is needed. And these things are indeed important for a Muslim to be part of his conviction. This is part of your aqidah. This is part of your religion. If you don't know this, then you should learn it, because we're not talking about something that's disputable. We're talking about the core of our belief and conviction. And this is why such classes are important, because it makes you firm on your religion. It makes you certain of your religion, not hesitant. And then the Sheikh says, no one is to be considered an unbeliever except those whom Allah and His Messenger pronounce as such. For example, and he starts giving examples for things that nullify our religion, that nullify Islam. And we will get to talk about this inshallah next time we meet. So I think we will stop here bi'idhnillah and begin to take your questions. Justin says, how can I protect myself from shirk of the heart? Would having iman in one's heart be a barrier to this? First of all, we have to understand what is meant by shirk of the heart in order to protect ourselves from it. So when someone says, how can I protect myself from COVID-19? If you don't know how COVID-19 is transmitted, if you don't know how COVID-19 behaves when a person is infected with it, most likely you won't be able to protect yourself from it. So what is the shirk of the heart? Now remember that shirk is associating others with Allah, and we will come to talk about this in detail bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal later classes. However, the shirk of the heart is when the heart looks to someone else other than Allah. It can be minor and it can be major. So if you trust other than Allah, if you fear other than Allah, and again, I don't know if you followed that or not when we spoke about the three fundamental principles, al-usul thalatha. We spoke about the type of fear that takes a person out of the fold of Islam. There is natural fear, which is normal. I fear lions. I fear crocodiles. I fear snakes. So if I see them, I wouldn't just ignore them and continue to pray because they're gonna kill me. If the house is on fire I have to run. No one in his sound mind would say, no, this is shirk. You are fearing the fire, and the fire can't harm you without the permission of Allah. I know, but it's burning me. Yeah. If you had strong iman like Ibrahim, Allah would save you. Who says that? Allah told me to take the means and get the heck out of here. Run. Simple as that. And so many times people mix and confuse these great things. So one person once asked, Sheikh, if I am praying in the masjid, like I think it happened once in Indonesia, the land of my great-grandfathers, and the imam kept on praying while the whole masjid was trembling and about to fall on his head. So one said, Sheikh, if I were in a similar situation, or for example, if I was praying and a lion is sniffing and approaching to, I don't know, he's not interested in a deodorant for sure. So the lion is coming and getting closer. Should I continue salat? What kind of question is this? So I said, if you can maintain your wudu, you may continue to pray. But usually people in such situations would either wet themselves or even do something even worse. So no, Allah told you to take the means and run, and not to wait for it. And this is not shirk. This is known as natural fear. The fear that is shirk is the one that people have in their heart that is equal or superior to the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. So you would not do a particular thing, yet you have no problem in sinning or committing another sin while Allah is watching you. And trusting other than Allah, depending on people, having your heart 100% connected to an individual who promised you to find you a job. And when someone tells you, Akhi, make dua to Allah that He facilitates this job for you. No. The only person who can get me this job is so and so. So your heart is totally diverted towards this creature rather than Allah Azza wa Jal. Shirk of the heart is when someone tells you, swear by Allah that you did not steal the mobile phone. And you said, yeah, wallahi, I did not steal the mobile phone. So what? So okay, swear by your sheikh or by your peer or by the prophet that you did not steal the mobile. I said, I can't do that because I'm afraid that their wrath would fall upon me. Yeah, I took the mobile. I'm not gonna lie. So subhanallah, swearing by Allah is no problem. Swearing with your peers or with your walis or with Jilani or Tijani or Badawi is a major sin that you refrain from doing. All of these things are shirk. Usually people don't have this in their hearts. True Muslims love Allah Azza wa Jal, love the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, depend entirely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't fear anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for real. And they trust Allah, and they supplicate, invoke only Allah, and they depend and rely only on Allah Azza wa Jal. They have hope only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with these things in your heart, there is no way for you to fall into shirk of the heart. And this is the manifestation of true Iman, and Allah knows best. Tazreen says, if we are in an area where the only masjid is of extreme railways doing blatant shirk, should we attend Jumu'ah? It's a rule of thumb that the prayer behind a mushrik is not permissible. But first, we have to ensure that that individual is a mushrik. So if the Imam clearly calls the Prophet ﷺ, "O Prophet of Allah, do this for me, protect us from what calamities we're undergoing. O Prophet of Allah, do this for that." Or if he believes that only the Prophet knows the unseen, alayhi salatu wasalam, if he believes that the Prophet is Hazir Nazir, he's around us and he hears us and he is capable of doing whatever we ask him to do, and he controls the universe as if he controls and sees the palm of his hand, this is blatant shirk. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that. So such an Imam, you definitely can pray Jumu'ah or normal prayers behind him. So what to do? The only way possible is to look for a masjid that the Imam is a follower of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or a Hanafi masjid, or a Shafi'i masjid, anything that is not Brelvi or not committing shirk. And if this is not possible, then you have to look into your area and see if you can find 3 or more Muslims, brothers who follow the Sunnah, who have correct Aqidah, and you guys make your own Jum'ah in a room or in a hall or somewhere, so that you would fulfill this great ritual, and Allah knows best. Rashid Kasmani, I think, says, can we pay electricity bill with interest money? As I was told by someone it's okay. Please enlighten me with correct, authentic information. First of all, Rashid, what is the classification of interest money? What is it? Halal or haram? Definitely it's haram. No one doubts this. So interest money that are generated by bank accounts, the conventional bank accounts, this is riba. What is the ruling on consuming riba? It's one of the major sins in Islam. So what do we do with it? Well, if there is no other Islamic bank around and this interest is forced upon you, then you have to take it and to cleanse your wealth by giving it away to poor or needy Muslims. So in Muslim charity. Okay, can I use this interest money to pay my utility bills? The answer is, have you benefited from your utilities, your electricity, your water, your mobile phone? So, yeah. So you are ordered to pay them from your own earned halal money. And this means that you cannot utilize the interest money by giving it to such companies, because this would be using haram money for your own benefits, which is totally prohibited and not permissible. So you must cleanse your wealth by giving it to Muslim charity. Karima says, what if I lied to help a friend to preserve their dignity and not harming anyone? Lying is not permissible in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ told us in many hadiths, as it's found in the Quran as well, that lying is a major sin. However, the Prophet ﷺ made an exception to lie in 3 situations, as the hadith indicates. To lie at war. So if I'm at war and my enemy army is eavesdropping or listening to my communications, part of the strategy of war that we say, okay, I'm talking to the commander of the fleet of so-and-so, we're headed tomorrow at 600 hours to the north of this island to arrange an ambush, and I'm making sure that the enemy hears this, but actually I'm not. I'm going south to attack their base there. They can't come and say, you guys lied. You said you're going north and you went south. What is this? No, this is not lying. This is war, and it is permitted to do such things at war. I'm not having a covenant with you. I'm not having a peace treaty. This is prohibited for me to lie in. But other than that, this is strategy, and it's no problem in that. Secondly, we're allowed to lie, a spouse to his spouse or to her spouse. So the couple can lie to one another. But this is not generally speaking. This is related to what increases the love between them. And I always give this example. When the man comes out of the bathroom after his shower wearing only his towel, and he starts to flex his muscles in front of the mirror, and he says to his wife, how do I look? And she breaks into laughter for 15 minutes, and after she regains her breath, she says, what do you mean? Look at your belly. You're unable to see your toes while standing. Do you think yourself Arnold Schwarzenegger? This kind of comments would usually end up with divorce. Be diplomatic. Be tactful. Lie. Say, wow, man, you look so handsome, so sexy. I don't know what to say. You're just gorgeous. Such lies are okay. It's the same thing when your wife comes out and she cooks a good meal, so she thinks, spending 2.5 hours in the kitchen, and you take the first bite or taste and say, what is this? This is dog food. It's not suitable for human consumption. Ugh. This would cause lots of trouble and resentment in her heart. You should appreciate that she spent such a long time in the kitchen doing her best. Maybe her best wasn't the best, but she tried. So you should say, wow, the food is magnificent. I think according to the Pirelli rate, or the Michelin, not Pirelli, that's another tire company. The Michelin rating, you should have 5 stars. I don't think any restaurant or a chef has this. The max they have 3, but it should be out of 5. I don't know. I'm not an expert in these things. So such lying is halal. The third type of lying is to reconcile between two fighting factions, individuals or groups. So there are two Muslims fighting. They don't speak to one another, and they have hatred and enmity. I go to this one and I say, wow, I've been to so-and-so, and he said so many good things about you, and he cursed Shaitan for not allowing him to get close to you, and it's this enmity that Shaitan is causing, but he says that he respects you and he loves you. So he says, seriously? He said, Wallahi, he said this to me. I'm lying, and I'm even swearing in lying. Then I go to the other guy and I said, by Allah, he said he wish he could speak to you like before. He loves you and he loves your company, and he said that you're generous. And he said, seriously? I said, Wallahi, he said that. And I tried to get them closer and maybe invite both of them for dinner. Such lying is halal because Allah loves reconciliation and hates division. Now when you come and you want to lie to save someone's dignity or honor and not harming anyone, this is not permissible. So to lie and say that, oh yes, Nadia, my cousin, she didn't go out with her boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend, when I know that she does. So lying is prohibited. I can't lie. You may dodge the question if you want, so not to expose her, but to go into her defense by lying and covering up her sins, or to protect her honor, no, this is haram. If you are unable to say the truth, then at least do not contribute in falsehood. And this is an important rule that we have to implement as much as possible. Okay, Jannatul Firdausi. May Allah make us all in Jannatul Firdaus. She says, several times you refer to Hisn al-Muslim, Fortress of the Muslim booklet. There is a hadith saying 7 times Hasbunallah, La ilaha illahu, and 3 times Raditu billahi rabban in the evening and morning adhkar. The hadith is Hasan, Sohi, or whatever. I'm doing this adhkar daily, but you said that the hadith is not authentic. Now I'm very confused. What should I do? Please explain with reference. Is the Hisn al-Muslim can be followed undoubtedly or not? First of all, if I can give you references out of the tip of my mind, would I be teaching you guys? I would be somewhere else with the major scholars doing this and that. I would be, whoo. I don't have this ability. Not because I'm old to remember, which is true, but it needs to be researched. I don't have the memory these guys have. So whatever I speak, I can't shoot from the hip. If I don't have knowledge, I have to go back to the references and cross-examine and come up with a verdict. So I can't give you references, but what I can tell you is Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa hu alayhi tawakkaltu, saying it 7 times is not authentic. The hadith is weak, and Shaykh al-Albani classified it as such. Now, does this mean that I should ditch and get rid of the Fortress of the Muslim booklet? No. See, only the Quran is infallible, is fault proof, has no faults in it. Only the Quran. All other books may have small or tiny or little errors or big errors, depending on the book itself. So Hisn al-Muslim is one of the greatest booklets on adhkar, and the vast majority of the adhkar and the du'as in it are authentic. The vast majority, you're talking about maybe 98, 97% of it. And these 2 or 3% that are not authentic, they are not for sure not authentic, meaning that it is a disputed issue. Some scholars authenticate it, others don't authenticate it. Not that it is totally weak and the Sheikh just put it there by his own whims and desires. May Allah have mercy on his soul. Sheikh Sa'id bin Wahf al-Qahtani, who Allah has placed a lot of acceptance to his small booklet that was spread all over the globe. Subhanallah. So the hadith is weak, yes, but some scholars authenticated it. My stance is that we follow Shaykh al-Albani in the vast majority of what he said. As for the adhkar of Raditu billahi rabban wa bil islami deen Muhammadan Rasula sallallahu alayhi wa sallam 3 times, this, according to the most authentic opinion of scholars, is said only after Fajr. You don't say it after or during the evening adhkar. But again, this is an issue of dispute. So what to do? If you say it, I wouldn't say that you're sinful. I don't say it myself. I only say it in Fajr. But you can't simply say, I need a booklet that is fault proof. No, there isn't anything like that. You have to do your level best in finding and acquiring what is most authentic and depend and rely on this fact by selecting and choosing a scholar of hadith who you accept his authentication, like fiqh. What to do over this issue, Sheikh? Put our hands up our chest or down our belly buttons, our navels, or what to do? There are many confusing verdicts of the scholars. Well, you have to take one particular scholar who you trust his religious commitment, his knowledge, his righteousness, and you follow him in whatever he says, because you're a layman. Likewise in hadith, I'm not a scholar of hadith, so whenever I'm blinded and not able to distinguish whether this is authentic or not, I go to my Shikh, who is Shikh al-Albani, and go to his references and see the latest he had written and commented on the grade of such a hadith, and act upon it, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. So this is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.